Hello, everybody, and welcome to Celebrate with L.A. Williams. My name is L.A. Williams, and I am so honored to be bringing you today's episode. Today, we are celebrating the one and only Mr. Justin Emeka. Justin Emeka.
Wow, that feels pretty good.
Absolutely, brother. Oh my God. Before I get into a deeper introduction of you, Justin, I want to talk a few seconds about what Celebrate is and sort of what it means to me. So this series is a manifestation of a life-changing moment I had as a young undergraduate student at Alabama State University. It was my first time in the theater, and I had never seen a play. I knew nothing about acting or any of it. And I went and saw the first production of that semester, a play called Phaedra by Jean Racine, directed by Dr. Tommy H. Stewart. And it was the most incredible experience, not only because I was bit by the bug, as they say, but the entire time that I watched the show, and I saw it 4 times that weekend, I went to every performance after the first one. I kept thinking about this overwhelming desire I had to say thank you to the folks on that stage, right? I didn't know them. They didn't know me. I wanted to go up to them and say, thank you. Thank you so much for inspiring me. Thank you for, and I didn't know this at that moment, but changing my life and putting me on this path, because I was like an education major at the time. And I wanted to say thank you to everybody behind the scenes and whoever was a part of that project. I wanted to walk up to them and give them a personal thank you. And that truly is the genesis of Celebrate. That is what Celebrate is. It is my personal thank you to those who have inspired me, who have uplifted me, and who have shifted something inside me through their art or their humanity. And, cut to 2012, I wanted to turn it into a formal series. I wanted to turn it into this interview series where I could actually sit down with some of those people, right? And listen to what were some of the moments in their journey that transformed them and made them want to be an artist or made them want to become who they are. And so that is what I started to do in 2012. And here we are 10 years later, I'm still doing Celebrate. And I'm really thinking a lot about this moment that we're all living in, this pandemic, right? And the fact that we are all pulling through and surviving and thriving. And also I decided a couple months ago to go out and see some shows, right? And I've been seeing shows out of town, in town, on Broadway, off Broadway. And it dawned on me that the people who are working in this moment are actual heroes, right? They're actual people who are on the front lines, testing the waters for us, doing all the things. And I wanted to make sure I said thank you to as many of those people as possible. That's Celebrate. But I want to get to Mr. Justin Emeka for a couple seconds. Justin is not only an extraordinary artist and a brilliant, brilliant mind, but Justin is a brilliant and extraordinary friend to me and a brother, someone I consider a brother. And it is my absolute honor, Justin, to celebrate you and love on you and just hold space for you and with you today. And I wanted to say one more thing about Justin and his artistry and his humanity is that it was important for me to say thank you to you in my way, because you happen to have directed a production of William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream that absolutely changed something in me. Okay, it changed something in me, Justin. It was the first time as an audience member, I saw myself in Shakespeare. I saw myself doing Shakespeare. I felt Shakespeare. Let me tell you, Justin, I tell you all the time, I'm gonna just say one more time, Justin, you directed the dog meat out of that production. And it vibrated on so many levels. I am infinitely grateful. And for that alone, I just wanted to say thank you, brother. I wanted to say thank you. And I always want to say thank you every time I think of it. And so much so that, as you know, I asked to be your assistant director the next year on your brilliant production of Romeo and Juliet at the Classical Theatre of Harlem, right here in Harlem, New York. So thank you, Justin. I love you. I celebrate you. And I wanted to just bring you on.
Man, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm, honored to be here, brother, that you would have me. And we've had many conversations over the past 10 years.
Yes, I know.
It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years. Oh my God, absolutely.
I'm right with you, and I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. So what I like to do with Celebrate, it's pretty sort of open in terms of how we go about it. But I always like to start with this simple question or this thing of let's start by celebrating the day you were born. And I ask that because I want to have you throw us back as far as you can to either your earliest memory, or it can be actually your birth story, and just kind of talk about how you got on this earthly plane or or what's your earliest memory? What's the beginning of Justin Emeka?
So that's just a little warm up question. there's a lot there, a lot to unpack. But I just kind of throw out some things, 1972
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm.
what brings birth to me.
Mm.
Englewood, New Jersey,
Mm.
you know, gave birth to me.
Mm.
Palisade Avenue.
Mm.
People who are getting more specific. Again, I have to say 1972, Englewood,
Mm.
New Jersey,
Mm.
Palisade Avenue. And the last thing, for anybody who knows about my beginnings, would have to be Bike Master.
Mm.
Bike Master was
Mm.
the bike store that my father started just after I was born in Englewood, New Jersey,
Mm.
and which shaped much of my early childhood was just growing up in a bike store in Englewood, New Jersey, called Bike Master, that
Mm.
started by my father.
Wow. Wow. An actual bike store, like a store for bicycles.
Yeah, for BMX bikes
Mm.
largely. And so,
Mm-hmm.
we my brothers and I had, at the time, I had two older brothers. My
Mm.
brothers and I would race bikes, BMX bikes, through the late 1970s and early 1980s.
Mm.
We were serious. Like, we were
Mm.
like racing bikes, BMX
Mm.
bikes.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest brother was like, got third in the world championship in Japan
Wow.
in like 1979, no,
Wow.
1981, somewhere around in there. So
Wow.
we were like
It was
really,
a real thing.
we were like, it was early BMX too. It was
Mm.
really early BMX, and we
Mm.
we had a team out of my father's bike shop in Englewood, New Jersey, Bike Master, and it was called the Bike Master Dusters, and all the neighborhood
Wow.
kids from around the way who had bikes would come and ride bikes with us. And we go to, some of them would be on the
Wow.
team, we go to the tracks, and cats loved me and my brothers because we always had the nicest bikes, boy. It's like, oh, you guys got the Jaguar, you got the SC and the Red Line, and we pushing the
Wow.
Huffy. So,
Wow. Come on, Huffy. That's hilarious, actually. So,
so
Justin, did your father open up the bike store because you and your brothers were interested in racing, or did y'all become
no,
interested after the bike store?
yeah, no. After the
Mm.
bike store, my father wanted to have a business for himself.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, and that's my mother and father's story. They both have a very rich story as being an interracial couple,
Mm.
that got
Mm.
married at a time when it was still technically illegal in this
Mm.
country, in
Mm.
14, 15 of the states in the South. Actually, I think both of their home states, it was still illegal technically.
Mm.
My mother, a white woman from Oregon, my father, a black man from Arkansas and
Mm.
Texas.
Mm.
Um, and so they were searching for home
Mm.
and it landed in
Mm.
Englewood, New Jersey.
Wow.
And as my father, who had an MBA at the time, a master's
Mm.
in business administration, he
Mm.
had it in the early 70s, but he was conflicted with the corporate world.
Mm.
So no,
Mm.
he'd going to take a job, and he couldn't stomach it. He couldn't do it.
Mm.
My father could
Mm.
never keep one, and he had a corporate job at a bank, and he said, "No, I want to start my own business. I want to
Mm.
be my own boss."
Mm.
And it was with bicycles because he figured
Wow.
that's what the community needed.
Wow.
Um, yeah, bicycles, and he could fix bikes. He was the bike master.
Wow.
Yeah.
Justin, that's incredible. And unlike anything I've ever heard. When did you know in your early childhood that you were an artist? Were you one of those people that like knew from the moment you could talk and walk, or did you discover it later in your growing up? Or when did you know that you were sort of an artist person? And does art run in your family? Like do artists, run in your family?
That's a great question. Um, I don't think I didn't. I don't know. I never really thought myself like as an artist. I didn't know like that's
Mm.
how you think about.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
as a kid, like, I'm an artist. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
anybody who thought of themselves in those terms. So,
Absolutely.
you think of it more in terms of, I like to be in front of people. People kind of think of
Mm,
more, oh, you a
mm-hmm,
clown.
mm-hmm,
Justin's a character. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
never had any problem being up front, in front of
mm-hmm,
like in front of
mm-hmm.
people. I
Absolutely.
loved that attention. You know, some kids get up and they see all them eyes and they freak. I get up and I'd be like, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm home. I feel I'm
That's right.
alive.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
that was from pretty early on. And my mother recognized that
Mm,
quality in me
mm,
and said, "Hey, you should go to an acting class." And I was like,
mm. Oh, wow.
"Acting class, okay."
Wow.
In Englewood, New Jersey.
Wow.
She
And how
was
old were you when she said that? How old were
I was
you?
probably like maybe 6 or 7.
Oh, wow, Justin.
Yeah, so she took me
That's
to the kids
early.
and it was like running around the room, be a tree. I was like, tree, be an ice
Oh
cream
my
cone,
God.
blew my mind. Be an ice cream cone. Oh shit.
Oh my God, Justin. Oh my God. I mean, I want to just take a moment to celebrate your mom, though. The
Oh,
fact
come
that
on
she
now,
like
for
peeped
sure.
that
Oh man, my
and
mother was
like made it happen is not to be like skipped over, right? I mean,
not
that's
at
a
all.
big deal to be able to like
Oof.
identify something in your child and then put it into action in a
Yes.
way that could potentially put them on their life path. I mean, come on, mama.
That's right. That is all the way right. And God rest her soul. My mother was a
Mm,
beautiful, beautiful woman, and she was the artist. She was the artist that I
mm,
knew. She was the
mm,
only artist knew that I knew growing up, and because
mhm,
she would draw. It was very, kind
mm,
of. She could draw. She could make art. She could make
mm,
costumes. She would make us
mm,
these, when it came
mm,
Halloween time,
mhm.
and kids would have them plastic ass costumes with the. My mom would be at home sewing up Spider-Man outfits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Having me dressed like Luke Skywalker, like, well, let's buy
Mm,
this and let's hear you
mm.
use this belt and you put it, let's buy you a toy lightsaber. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's
She
like
was an artist.
she
She
was.
was an
She
artist.
was
She was
very
putting
much
together
so.
art.
She was
Come on.
very much
And do you
so.
think you knew, like in the moment, do you think you knew that your mom was being an artist in those moments, or was she just being
Yeah,
mom?
mom
Yeah,
was
yeah,
mom was creative. Mom could, because she could draw. She could,
yeah.
if you
So you
need,
knew.
in a
Yeah,
way, it's like, oh man. Again, that's straight artistic currency as a kid. Can you
absolutely.
draw?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For real, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Can you
yeah,
draw? Because they give you
yeah.
that at school, give you papers, crayon. Okay, make a picture. And some kids be like, some kids go right, go right to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mother,
absolutely.
man, you gave her my
Mm,
mother a crayon and a piece of paper. She's gonna make something. She's gonna just watch her
mm,
just draw, and she'd be meticulous and take
mm,
time, and you wouldn't see it at first, and then you start to see it. And my mother was a very, just a beautiful soul, and just
mm,
artistic, and just
mm,
patient, and take her time. And so yeah, so she was like the one who was the artist, but she wasn't a
mm,
performing artist at all.
mhm,
She was
mhm.
very introverted. My mother was,
Introverted. Wow.
very kind of to herself. She loved her boys, me and my
Mm,
brothers. Oh my goodness,
wow. Ooh, I
loved
can
her
only
boys.
imagine. I mean, it sounds like it.
That's
Just the
right.
time that
Yeah,
you said she took with things and
that's right.
to
And
put,
so
invest in
she
you.
took me on. Yeah, I mean, she would drive me when I first got cast in my first like professional play. I remember I was like 12 years old, and she would drive me 40 miles. It was like, I know, it was like about an hour and 15-minute drive there.
Mm,
She would
mm,
wait out in the car while I was at rehearsal in the city, and then she would drive me an hour and 15 minutes home at 10 o'clock at night after.
mm.
This is when I was in like the 8th grade. And so yeah, but she just kind of made the dream seem like water, drinking
Mm,
water when you're
mm,
thirsty. So I never had any inhibitions in my thinking in terms of like what I enjoyed doing. My mother and my father, was like, what do you want to do? Do it. And
mm,
that is a certain kind of freedom that was, planted in me from my parents, that
mm,
that I still water today.
Justin. Ooh. Mm. Yeah. Thank you for that. And it makes sense why I find you to be such a supportive person
Hmm.
towards artists. It just, all of that makes so much sense on so many different levels. So thank you for sharing that. A couple quick little follow-ups about sort of early growing up. Were you the only artist child, or was it a situation where you and your brother, or you and all the brothers had a talent,
Yeah.
or
Well, we had a thing, and
mm,
I was the only one that where performing was the thing. My
got it.
other brother was
Mm-hmm.
like sports. Sports was
Mm-hmm.
really the thing because that was the time
Mm-hmm.
in the 70s and the 80s growing up. It's all about sports, you know. And I did
Mm-hmm.
sports too. And I got to a one point, and everybody had a different sport, right? And I
Mm,
got to a point where I wanted to do this acting program or go to this all-star baseball camp. And I
mm-hmm.
chose the acting camp, and everybody
Mm.
was like, "What? You could be in the all-stars. You're gonna go do that?" I was like, "Yes, that's what I want to do."
That's what I want to
And
do.
from that moment, I never looked back. Since
Mm.
that moment, since I was 12 years old, at that moment,
Wow.
I've always pursued theater. I've always pursued my life in the theater as an
Wow.
actor, then as a director, as a teacher, as a writer. It's been a home for me, you know, not TV,
Wow.
film, theater. And so that's where always my passion is rooted.
Mm. Mhm. Justin, that's great. I was going to ask you what was the sort of next step after the acting class that your mom put you in, and it
Mhm.
sounds like you went to the camp. Now, what happened after the camp? Like after you did this thing at 12, did you go to high school for the performing arts? Did you do shows in high school? Like, how did you move on from there?
No, so when it's almost from since the class, the acting class,
Mm.
and I was 7 years old again, back in Englewood, New Jersey, and Justin loves it, and I loved it. Then it was just like that's what I do. So if there's
Mhm.
an opportunity for
Mm.
anything performance,
Mm.
I would seek it out. If there was
Wow.
a play, if somebody needed a speaker in a class, if there was a class production going on, if there was a community center production going on, if there,
Mm.
I did all types of things
Mm.
as a little kid, performing in plays on stages, and just because
Mm.
I would be that, I had no problem doing it. You know,
Mhm.
people would be like,
That's where that was
yeah,
you.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
like that. And so
yeah.
people, and yes, people kind of knew me for that. But then I started moving around a lot in
Mm.
my adolescence,
Mm.
and so theater. When I would move, I would look up theater. I would look it up in you know, where's the theater in town? Do they have classes? Do
Mhm.
they have classes
Mhm.
for high school? Do they have class for kids my age?
Mhm.
And so as I moved around the country, I would always take theater. And if I found a
Mm.
spot, I would move here, but I would go back to that last spot because the theater was so good.
Mm.
And so I spent a lot of time in Seattle, Washington. Even though I moved around the
Mm.
rest of the country, I got connected to, at a pretty young age, a community of young artists, actors,
Mm.
actor
Mm.
training that was happening
Mm.
in those years that
Mm.
I, you know, rooted a lot of what I did in the theater.
Wow, Justin. So when did you go to college? Not when, but where did you go to college? And did you study theater or did you study something else? Considering the fact that because what I'm hearing is that you kind of worked for, I mean,
Yeah.
you did a lot of what I might consider with
Hmm.
semi-professional or professional work before
Hmm.
college. So what did
Yes.
you do once you got to college? And did you even go to
Yeah,
college?
I did go to college. You know, education was big in my family. You know,
Mm.
and so Oberlin College, as I said, I moved around a lot. I went to three different high schools, so I wasn't
Mm.
really particular to one particular space.
Mm.
But one of my aunts, my family encouraged me to look at Oberlin College. It was the
Mm.
first college in the country to accept African Americans. A lot
Mm.
of people felt like it was almost a HBCU. It wasn't a
Mhm.
HBCU, but it had a
Mm.
certain kind of similar
Mm.
legacy
Mm.
attached to it, you know. So I
Mhm.
looked at it, and I liked it. I loved it a lot because it had a Black Studies department, and it had a hip
Mm.
theater program, and it had a
Mm.
music program. So it
Mm.
kind of combined all these things. So I went to college for at Oberlin College, but I didn't study theater as much. I
Mhm.
studied Black Studies at the
Mhm.
time, and
Mhm.
I took, you know, I had all these wonderful, incredible professors. You know, I would say
Mm.
my first um, college class was with the late Bell Hooks, you know, who at the time was Gloria
Wow.
Watkins. And I didn't know who
Wow.
she was at all. I'm going to
Mm.
college, and my first class is Intro to African American Literature with Gloria Watkins, aka Bell Hooks.
Wow.
And so Oberlin was a place that offered me so much, you know, kind of like, woof, opened the world to me. And
Wow.
Oberlin, I got to interact with Amiri Baraka and Calvin Herton, and, you know, hear from Ivan Van Sertima, and
Mm.
just all the Angela Davis came through. I mean, just
Mm.
all these just incredible minds, you know, that came through. And then the cohorts of students, the other people you go to school with, just
Mhm.
brilliant
Mhm.
young people.
Mhm.
Professors that I had at the time, you know, Caroline
Mm.
Jackson Smith, who started the
Mhm.
whole Black Arts program at Oberlin College, that,
Wow.
you know, generated a legacy. So a lot of my life, I try and find my legacy
Mm.
and latch on.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
what Oberlin kind of taught me to do.
Wow. Ooh. Ooh. Celebrate all those amazing people. I'm sorry, I'm just having a moment of thinking like if my first class was Intro to African American Studies and taught by Bell Hooks. Sorry if I got the name of the course wrong, but like if I'm just thinking if that was my first experience in college, what that would do for me. So I'm sort of in my imagination, just kind of like, that's wonderful. Right. So what happened after Oberlin? Like, did you go straight to grad school or what happened?
Going into the So yeah, I graduated Oberlin College with a degree in Black Studies with a concentration in performance art. And my mentors had been Calvin Hurton, who's an incredible poet, scholar, and Caroline Jackson Smith, who was a theater director, a theoretician. And so that's I left with that degree, and I knew I loved theater, but I also wasn't excited by what was going on in the professional theater in the middle to late 90s at the time, and so I started doing my own thing, trying to, we started a theater company, where we create our own shows, and, working at the Black Theater in Seattle, Langston Hughes Performing Arts Center. Me and some friends did a production called Pressure, a hip hop theater experience, where it's a hip hop show in 1995 at Langston Hughes. And the community loved it. We loved doing it. So then we did more. We created a little company called Jungle Creations that used hip hop artists and dancers and spoken word, and we would create these shows and do them at nightclubs and do them at community centers and do them at student conferences and stuff all through the late 90s. That's where, and so I was writing scenes, we were performing scenes, and with brothers and sisters who could sing, who could dance, who was from the hood, who could we were Jungle Creations.
Jungle Creations.
It was beautiful.
I love it. Yeah.
But then life happens, and it's hard to sustain organizationally, and so eventually I ended up going to graduate school for directing at the University of Washington, and then started directing plays, and where I also became interested a little bit in the idea of what it means to direct, for a Black person to direct a Shakespeare or a Moliere or some, anything, and to reimagine the cultural context of these shows. That's where I kind of got introduced in graduate school.
And what in graduate school, what about that experience made you start thinking specifically about reimagining those types of plays? Like, what about that experience?
So, I mean, like many young Black actors or Black theater people from the 90s, I was deeply influenced by August Wilson, and I loved August Wilson, and I wanted to do August Wilson. And so, of course, when I go, that's when we're talking about straight plays, because I had, I don't know that term straight, but just, a dramatic play. Let me say that. Dramatic plays. I had come from more like generative theater, where again we write it and we do it, and it's a kind of collage like, it's like vignettes. That's what I did for a long time. And then so that when I went to graduate school, then it was like getting into plays, dramatic narrative plays. And so mine is August Wilson. But everybody's like, oh no, August Wilson, you don't do August Wilson. That's too obvious. That's just, or we don't have enough we don't have enough actors to do those plays. That was kind of the feeling, and there was a very much prevailing idea of, well, you don't want to just be the August Wilson director, and I'd kind of be like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind being an August Wilson director. I mean, among other things,
of course,
among other things, but in their head they saw it as just a very limiting thing, it's just like, well, so then so I'm trying to think of other things outside of August Wilson, and then getting hip to the idea of culturally reimagining thing, that really came from my relationship with Avery Brooks, who's just an incredible human being. Again, artist who's an actor, a singer, a classic piano virtuoso. Just an amazing human being Avery Brooks is, who really was into this idea again of Africanizing Shakespeare. Avery spoke of the Africanization of Shakespeare.
Oh yeah.
We're like, whoa, what is that? What is that? And then I was in a production with Avery at at Yale Rep of King Lear in 2004. That was a
Mm.
an incredible production. It was an all black production. King Lear, Avery is King Lear, Hal Scott is directing it. I'm Edgar. John
Mm.
Douglas Thompson is Edmund.
Wow. Ooh.
Rosalind Ruff
Wow.
is Cordelia.
Wow.
Petronia Paley is Regan. I
Ooh.
mean,
I know that thing was, I know it was fire.
it was quite a production.
Wow.
And that sent me on an idea, on a path. I'm like, wow, what does this mean to like unapologetically put black culture into this quote unquote classical theater, into classical European theater, in a way very much related to what happened to music on Broadway and the jazz artists on taking these Broadway tunes and blowing the top off of them by incorporating a black cultural aesthetic into the work, and my example is Duke Ellington and Coltrane and Ella and Billy. They taking these whitest Broadway tunes ever and singing them in a whole new style, in a way that affirms both the original and the new version
and the new. Ooh,
and so
that's
I got
amazing.
interested in like, what does that look like in theater? You understand? Why don't we
Absolutely.
do that
Right.
Don't we let in the remounting of it, let the people who are in the room really invest who they are into the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh. Invest who they are into the process,
into the script, into the text, into the story,
the work. Yeah,
that's
into the story.
Because now we get into the art. That's what the art of theater making is.
Say more.
It's not trying to fix a product that's here. It is. It's you make a play and it keeps playing. It keeps playing. It keeps playing. And every night is a little different. So in every night, every production is a little different.
Absolutely.
The name of the game is not to make the last production.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
In the same way that we've become to our dramatic expectations for film is that you see a film once, it's the film. You see a film the next, it's the same film.
It's the same film.
You see a remake of that film, you're probably going to be looking for the specific elements
from the film, the original film. Yeah.
It's not that. That's the beautiful thing of theater. It's the opposite. You see, what do you bring of yourself to this story? Not rewriting the story, but telling this story through who you are. Let the story come through you.
Absolutely.
Not you trying to go to the story and recreate it. The production does not exist
without you.
With you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about theater. That's very unique to theater.
Absolutely. It requires and needs and wants us. Like it's not live or alive without our life.
That's right.
And us. I love it.
That's right.
Justin, so moving towards Midsummer at CTH, what was the first production that you directed where you felt like you were able to integrate all these ideas? Was it in grad school? Was it after grad school? And
that was after. So it was in graduate school. When I did King Lear, I was actually in graduate school for directing. Right?
Okay.
It was my second year of directing school. I took a semester, we had a professional semester where you could go do something. So that was I was in King Lear, and I was like, whoa, I want to do this. I want to do this myself, direct. So I came back in my senior year. Then I directed Macbeth, and I created a concept of Macbeth that was set in the American South during Black Reconstruction. That revamped it, in a way that it was very well received by the campus. And for me personally, it showed me, wow, this could work. I see.
I love
what I'm saying? It worked, and people loved it. Some people hated it. Some people were offended by it. But a lot of people really got something from it, and I was like, yeah, there's something here. And so I've, from that production, done a lot of more, right after that I did a production of Glass Menagerie that was with an all-black cast that was set in East St. Louis, that unapologetically looked at this as a Black family from the South whose mama was trapped in the past thinking she was going to be an aristocrat. a Black aristocrat. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean,
Totally.
there's all these. Again, you let Black people in on this stuff, and it becomes a brand new experience while honoring the original text. But that's the art of it, and you do have to be sensitive.
You do have to be sensitive. I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about your background in Black studies and how that shows up in your work and showed up in your work then and how it continues to show up. But I'm also thinking about the responses that you got to this work, right? And not so much how did you deal with the negative stuff. That's not the question. I think it's, I guess I'm just very interested in the bravery it takes to reimagine work and do it unapologetically, as you say, and to continue to do it, right? And do it well and do it at a very high level, right? I don't know if there's a question in there, but that's just something that's kind of vibrating in me.
That's that's a good point, astute. And I mean, I think it goes back to the whole thing about the audacity of enjoying people looking at you and being in that light.
Talk about it, Justin. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I always have had a wonderful faith in my own artistic vision, you know, in a way that's, again, I don't expect everybody else to, though. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, Justin. Yeah.
But I feel blessed that I have that, you know. And again, I give a lot to my mother, who just kind of let that confidence and it's, you know, just that sense of entitlement to the art. I'm not even going front. It is. I just feel like I have a right. To my expression. You know what I'm saying? And when I do it right, I think I'm the best. Actually, you know, because that's also what my culture taught me to think of myself.
That's right.
And that's what hip hop took, you know, it was always like, you to be the baddest. You be the baddest. And don't act like you're not. Don't walk around here.
Don't be acting like you're not.
You know, no, you be the baddest. You let them know. You the baddest. I want to be the baddest director in the country, you know?
Love that, Justin.
And I also, though, appreciate other people.
Absolutely.
Saying, I expect other people to have that same sentiment. I expect you to say, no, you know what? I'm the baddest director
motherfucker out there. Absolutely. You know I'm the baddest motherfucker out there. Absolutely. You know that's all right. Yeah.
You know? So that audacity has kind of led me to feel like, and it is so crazy. Yeah, I can do Macbeth. I'm gonna rewrite. I'm gonna re-edit it. I'm gonna edit it. You know, this is too much right here. But all directors have that.
Absolutely.
Everybody who's doing classical theater has to look at the text, make cuts, move things, contextualize things so that it brings it to a modern audience.
Everybody has to. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just saying, I'm not really doing much new in that regard. I'm just saying, let's talk about race. Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about gender. Let's talk about who we are in these worlds that we create. Because so oftentimes these classical European worlds had no vision for Black life even existing in that world.
Right.
They just could not imagine it. To be like, well, you can't have we're in Italy in 1620 and there would never be a Black person.
Exactly. They had
Actually, you know what? Black people have been pretty much everywhere at all times.
Every time.
You're going to find a brother walking the street.
Forever.
You're going to find a sister, you know, cooking. I'm just doing some shit.
Absolutely.
And a leader, shit. Black Roman emperors.
Yeah, right.
Justinian, by the way.
Right.
Emperor, you know? So
I love that. Justin, that's so, I just want to carve out a second to acknowledge what you said about that unrelenting faith that you've always had in yourself and your work and how important that is. And thank God for your mom and that kind of support and inspiration and encouragement. And also thank God for the fact that you've held on to that audacity, as you say.
Yeah.
And it's so important for us as artists, and it's just so inspiring to hear, because it takes that to be an artist, as you know. It takes that to go out in the world. It takes that to wake up every day, in my opinion. Right. And so thank you so much for just kind of like putting that on the table. It's so fucking important. And
go ahead.
And Justin, I think what's even more resonant about that is that I feel that audacity in your work. And not in like a kind of cheap way, but in a way of like, that's what my experience of Midsummer was. Like, whoa, who is this who has given themselves the full permission to go all the way, to integrate themselves fully into this work, and therefore give me the opportunity to have the same kind of experience as an audience member. And even as a director, I was smart enough to be like, Justin, I want to sit in a room with you on the next time you do anything, so that I can see exactly how you put it together. But all I'm saying is, you can feel that in the work. Everything that you just said about that faith, you feel it in the work, and that audacity, you feel it.
Well, and I had, starting from my mother, I had many people along the way who loved my artist, who loved and nurtured and fed and supported my artist, even without even like being a gassing up, without even like, oh, he's so great. You're like, because actually, you know, my mother really didn't like any of the stuff that I did. Not in a bad way, but she she'd be like, did you like Justin Emeka? She'd be like, oh, he just looked like Justin up there. That's how my mom told me. But it was so I also learned to not expect praise. I didn't need that. You know what I'm saying? It was more in my mother. She took me to it, but she never, I didn't expect her to be like, oh, and you're the best up there, Justin. And so don't you worry. And you know what I'm saying? That support was implicit, you know. And then I had teachers along the way, Vivian Phillips, a godmother of mine, who really just supported everything that I did. When I went to graduate school, Valerie Curtis Newton was my mentor. I worked with John Drury, and Steve Pearson said to me, this is a thing that Steve Pearson said to me after seeing my Macbeth. He was kind of the old guard teacher, acting teacher there. You know, a lot of people know Steve Pearson's incredible theater mind, actor, all this. You know, you have to get reviewed by them. Steve Pearson said to me, he said, Emeka, that's my name, Emeka. He said, I worked with Suzuki, and, you know, Suzuki told to me one time that he said that he could either do Suzuki plus Shakespeare, or he could do Suzuki, but he couldn't just do Shakespeare because he brought himself to everything that he does. So Justin, I liked watching Emeka and Shakespeare, and I actually wanted to see more Emeka. And he said that to me, and it was like, more Emeka? Yeah. Oh, I could do more. And then it was like, yeah, why not? Why? Because the whole process while I was doing Macbeth, I was also afraid, like, oh God, I gotta do Shakespeare, and the people out there who are the Shakespeare police gonna, I gotta think about you know. But Steve Pearson kind of had me thinking, like, wait a second, no, you can either do, I can do Suzuki plus Shakespeare, or just do Suzuki, Emeka plus Shakespeare, or just
do Emeka. That's a fucking word. That is a word, Justin.
And so, it opened up a lot of, again, that sense of, you know what, I'm going to here it is. I don't expect you to, you may love it, but you may not. And you have that right. But I have the right to express
me in all of my fullness. I love that. I have to say, going back to Midsummer for 2 seconds, again, I could feel all of that. Even though I didn't know the history or the background, I could feel it when I was watching that show. And also that production, your production of Midsummer at CTH, at Classical Theatre of Harlem, I'm realizing in this very moment, had a lot to do with the inspiration and the motivation, not motivation, but the courage I found to do my production of Measure for Measure at the Public Theater's mobile unit, right? And to really do it my way. I didn't realize, maybe until now, actually, that was somewhere inside me, you know, based on what I felt and what I saw. And we had, you know, obviously been friends for years. So we talked about how much that show meant to me. But Anyway, so I just have to just carve that out and say thank you again and again and again and again and again. So I think we've kind of moved through so much of the journey. What working on Midsummer at Classical Theatre of Harlem, like what was that experience like for you? I mean, like in terms of like putting the show together, like I guess what was your favorite memory, I guess?
I mean, Midsummer Night's Dream, I don't want to take for granted that everybody knows even what Midsummer Night's Dream is about, you know. Because I growing up, I was never like a Shakespeare lover. So, I mean, I appreciated certain Shakespeares, but more than not, I just didn't identify with it. I didn't quite find my way in. There was something that I thought was cool about the poetry, you know. But the also the volume of words were just, I just couldn't. It's like there's a lot. Trying to connect to all of this.
Too much.
Well, it's very specific too to like Elizabethan these jokes, these references. They're very specific.
Yeah, they are.
It's in conversation with an audience, and it's almost as equivalent to like how specific hip hop speaks to the people of the 90s, the 2000 of the time that it's made. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's made so imagine, 400 years people trying to look at hip hop songs that were made for and trying to translate these terminology.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
Biggity fliggity.
Absolutely.
So Shakespeare is very different and very has its own like nuances from that time. So I guess when I came in as a director, just having the sense of, if there's something that I feel is out of place, I'm gonna cut it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna cut it. And let me start with just even culturally offensive. People ask a lot, what do you do about, if you're dealing with these racist remarks and such, man, I cut that. I'm not gonna I don't need to.
I'm not wrestling with that. I'm not wrestling with that.
I don't. That's not what I'm trying to give.
That's not what I'm trying to give. Yeah,
means different things.
That's right. Absolutely.
Now that I don't even think was the intention at that time. So now if I want to deal with race, though, I'm gonna be very intentional and specific, and I am gonna be about this, and I want to invite the audience to see blackness in this world and how it impacts the world. That's what I'm going to craft. Because oftentimes white people have a hard time seeing blackness in the world, except where in roles of servitude, in roles of lower status. It's funny. You can see a white production of any time, any era, and they will always kind of feel comfortable with making that motherfucker the maid.
That's right. That's
the
right.
Butler.
That's right.
Or the cook.
Right.
Yeah,
all of it. Yeah, exactly.
All of it.
Yeah.
But again, so if you can imagine them, we gotta open that. Yeah, and they're probably shoe shine folks from the 16th century, but there were also doctors and leaders and writers.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
And mothers and fathers and brothers, just regular, And so I like bringing those Black people into the classical European worlds.
Absolutely. Justin, thank you for indulging me on that whole Midsummer journey. I wanna just say right now that another reason why I wanted to celebrate you and thank you was for your work as an educator, right? As I think about now, 2022, and this whole pandemic that we've been living through, I'm really just in full admiration of folks like you who have continued to show up in the classrooms on Zoom, working from home, and leading young people. So this is simply just a thank you for that work that you do outside of directing Shakespeare or directing at all, even though I'm, your artist and your work as an educator, I'm sure is all kind of, integrated. So thank you for being that and doing that. And I also just want to acknowledge the fact that you have been working in this pandemic as a professional director. You've still been directing. And that's incredible. And I got a chance to sit in on one of your rehearsals in Cleveland recently, Cleveland, Ohio, and where you were directing, what was it? August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah,
and then you ended up at the historic, iconic Karamu House.
Right.
And then you ended up stepping into the show. And so again, congratulations. And That's amazing. I mean, how did it feel, and how does it feel to be making work right now? And how are you keeping yourself together? How are you taking care of yourself as a person who I consider to be a hero and also on the front lines of all of this?
Yeah, it depends on from day to day. It changes. I
Mm-hmm.
stay thankful and ever blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so
Mm-hmm.
gracious to acknowledge, what you just acknowledged in terms of the challenges of
Mm-hmm.
being educators and being a live performance artist just in general. It's
Yes. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
hard right now to
Mm.
be a live performance artist
Mm-hmm.
in this moment. And how you stay active and hungry, and
Yes.
and how you
Yeah.
also share how you are of service to the
Mm-hmm.
community and
Yeah.
giving what the community needs, because like during like the depression, arts actually went up. Support for
Right.
arts and for music and for
Mm-hmm.
TV and for, and not
Mm-hmm.
TV but for film, and
Mm-hmm.
because people need those things
They do.
to
Yeah.
feed the soul. And so it's hard during this pandemic where the live arts couldn't feed
Mm-hmm.
couldn't
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be a part. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel very lucky and blessed to keep active in that way. A lot of times it's very helpful. It's your therapy. It's the way, the way you get through
Mm-hmm.
is to find a way to express through your art how you're feeling and
Mm-hmm.
navigating the
Mm-hmm.
current situation of your life.
Mm.
Theater for me has always been that. It's always been,
Mm. Always been that.
and it's helped
I
keep me
love that.
sane.
Ah, I love that. I
Mhm.
love that. I love the idea of the work being a tool for therapy and healing and self-care. And it's something that I think is wonderful. I
Yeah.
think, and I think it's almost kind of mind-blowing, even though I've always known it. And that's exactly a big part of why I make theater and do my work. But I love when I talk to folks right now and they say, the work has helped me.
Hmm.
Staying active in the work has actually helped me get through this moment. I was thinking earlier before we got on, in the spirit of like trying to like have a little fun or light moment on the series, on the episode, I wanted to ask you a couple of quick little questions, like, what are some of the what is a win that we can celebrate? A win from your journey? What is a loss from your journey that we can celebrate together? And what is something big we can celebrate? It could be anything about anything, and something small, right? In the spirit of celebrating with each other. Like, what are some of those things from your journey that we can just pin out really quickly and celebrate together?
Okay, where did you start?
A win.
A win that we can that I hope that my work helps inspire Black people and all people to really have permission to find themselves inside classic work and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately whatever work. And I hope
Mm-hmm.
that my work is a testimony to
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You understand? And
Mm-hmm.
if looking at what I've done in the body of my work, that's what is working to do.
Well, that's a
One of the
win.
things.
Yeah, that's a win. Well, then that's a clear win. And you've won from me because your work showed me the possibilities. Oh, Justin, child, don't get me started. That I'm telling you, it did, and it does. It continues to. So that's a win.
And
What would be just a loss? I think it's important. I'm going to give a little context for the audience. I think it's important to me, and that we, especially in times like these, we celebrate everything as much as we possibly can, right? It's not just the shiny, cute moments, but it's also like I celebrate the moment when I, whatever, fell off the bike and scratched my knee. Like, whatever the thing is, like, what is something that you can think of right now, that you're like, oh, that was a little bit not so much a win, even though I don't even know if there's a such thing as a loss. But anyway, I'm just wondering if there's anything that comes up for you.
Mm-hmm. Dang, I'm trying to think. That's a great question. And I mean, I do try and think forward and think,
Mm-hmm.
I try not to linger on the regrets.
Totally.
I'm not that one person, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think also that it's important that at one level,
Mm-hmm.
that's a weakness that I
Mm-hmm.
have,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is that sometimes I don't know if I am open with myself even about where I got hurt, where
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Woo!
well, and I mean, I think it is somewhere along the lines though of
Mm. Mm.
not feeling like a full human being as a person whose mother was white and whose father
Mm-hmm.
was black,
Mm.
and
Mm.
had to navigate a world that did
Mm.
not know how to like
Mm.
understand that union.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, I
Mm.
just like growing up, there's just so many times I would encounter people. They would ask you who you are. What are you? That's, again, that question. What are you? And you tell them, and they look at you like they don't understand how you can exist.
Right. How you
And
can
I
be all of those
literally,
things.
when I
Yeah.
was in high school, I remember, this one white guy sitting next to me in science class. He was not being particularly mean at all.
Mm,
He asked me the question, what are you?
mm.
I say, my mom's white and my dad's black, and he did like this. I'm like a dog, like when you say something to a dog, he just,
Totally.
and he, again, not being mean, very matter of fact, he said, no, he's like, no, you're not. He's like, you can't be that. He's like, he said, that's impossible.
Mm.
You can't be that. He said, that's like, being half dog and half person. You can't be he's like, what are you really? And it made me laugh. Again, I'm so cocky and shit, I'm like, this motherfucker right here. I laugh at myself. I'm like, wow, you really,
Mm,
you really can't even
mhm.
fathom
Fathom.
my existence,
My existence.
here. And again, he wasn't being mean. He was
He
like
was
a
just being
dog, like
honest. Yeah, it was like
trying to figure out, I see him. I heard a funny sound, or I'm trying to
yeah.
figure out, and
Yeah.
that was a common sentiment that I had
Mm,
to navigate
mm,
throughout my throughout my childhood. Is like,
mm,
what are you?
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Ooh, Justin. That's so deep, brother. That's so deep. So deep and beautiful. Yeah, I don't, yeah, and then if there's something big today or something small, like big and small, just something small you celebrate and about
something big.
yourself, or yeah, something big, something small.
Okay, something big I would say is that I am a tenured professor
Yeah. Yes.
of
Yeah.
theater and Africana
Yeah.
studies at
Yes.
Oberlin College,
Yes.
the place that I
Yes.
attended.
Yes, motherfucker.
You
I
know,
love it.
and that's
Yeah.
right. And
I love
I
that,
have it.
Justin.
I earned it. It's mine.
Mm,
And I encourage others to follow. And I try and open doors behind me for people to walk in the same path and
Justin.
enjoy the same fruits. Because it is something. Being tenured is
Mm-hmm.
something. In the same
Is
way, and
something.
I'll also say something big that I got
Mm-hmm.
to is
Mm-hmm.
that I've been married for 23 years, and
Hallelujah.
I love
Yes. Yes,
my wife.
Justin.
I love my wife, and she
Oh.
is my guide and my muse, and I humble myself to who she is. And I would not have achieved
Mm.
or attained this level of thinking, this level of freedom without her love as a human. Because you gotta, if you get to levels of freedom, you have people around you who love you for the freedom that you exude.
Ah! Justin, I'm done. I'm gonna get off this thing with you.
And if you
Justin.
don't, you ain't gonna believe in your own freedom.
Ah!
You're gonna be afraid that your freedom is gonna hurt somebody,
Ah!
and so you keep it for yourself. So you gotta have people who love you, and my wife loves me, and so I'm free.
Ah! Hey, all right, okay. All right, Justin. Justin. Okay. All right. Wow. My wife loves me, and so I'm free. Okay, I'm gonna move on because I can go on. Listen, whoa. That's so beautiful. And I totally called you out your name because I just got excited, and that's what we do. I'm sorry, but golly, I love that you're like, I am a tenured professor at Oberlin College of Theater and African American Studies, Africana Studies.
Yeah.
Justin, and that's something big.
Yeah.
And I love it. And something small. What's something small you celebrate? I don't know, just something.
Just ironically, just a little thing I do is capoeira Angola.
Love that. Yeah.
It always maintains a little spark of every part of my day.
Love that. That's so clear. Is there anything on your heart or mind or body that you feel like, or conscious that you feel like you want to, this is your party, we're celebrating you. Is there anything that you feel you want to put on the table or just kind of express and,
Mm. Well, shoot, since because I'm here with you, I just want to say thank you. You
Mm,
know, I mean, as I've gone through this journey, again, we bring out the best and the worst of each other.
mhm,
You
mhm,
need people who know how to bring out the best of you, you know.
mhm,
And one
mhm,
of the reasons that I love you is because you help bring out the best of me. That's
mm,
how I
mm,
feel with your
mm,
questions, with
mm,
your love, with
mm,
your affirmation, you know.
mm, mm,
And so it is. It's what a brilliant idea. This idea of celebrate, you know,
mm,
because
mhm.
I also though think that it's such a hard thing for us.
Mhm.
What do we in our lives really celebrate?
Right, 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 right,
You know,
right,
and
right,
what does that mean? What are the
right.
rituals that we do, the rituals of
Yeah,
celebration, or the
yeah.
space that we create in our
Mhm,
life to?
mhm,
And I have a hard time. Like, what are your
mhm,
holidays, and what do you do
mhm.
on those holidays?
Right,
Other
right,
than, well, I don't go to work. I sit down and I
right,
get to watch
right,
three
right,
movies,
right.
binge watch
Yeah,
Euphoria or something, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But how we celebrate. So I just appreciate you, and that you bring in this consciousness towards celebration to the
Mhm.
forefront.
Mm. Thank you, brother. Oh God, I'm like I said, I'm testing out these little questions about big, small win losses. Um, and remembering in this moment that I wrap these interviews up by asking, what does celebrate mean to you? And you've already kind of touched on that. So I'm gonna ask that formally.
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be celebrated?
To be celebrated. Again, I think at the root of all this work is love.
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
You know, it's love, and celebration is an
Mm.
important form of love,
Mm-hmm.
because we
Mm-hmm.
love is such a small word that encompasses.
Mm-hmm.
We try and encompass so much
Mm-hmm. Yes.
inside that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
And celebration
Mm.
is a unique
Mm.
form of
Mm.
love.
It's a unique form of love.
You know that,
Hmm.
and again, that you got to practice, and you got to
Hmm.
find ways to
Totally.
practice
Yes. Yeah.
that love, practice that
Absolutely.
celebration.
Yes. Yeah.
And I still, I have a hard time with it,
Hmm.
honestly, but
Yeah.
I always
Absolutely.
find it. I find it in the beauty of the relationships that I and
Hmm.
the conversations
Hmm.
with people, with students, with
Hmm.
actors, with
Hmm.
co-artists. I'm
Hmm.
constantly reaffirmed in
Hmm.
my connections to
Hmm.
other people,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know.
Ooh, Justin, and you've already touched on this a little bit, but I'd like to formally ask, what or who do you celebrate?
Mm. Oof.
Mm.
I try and say again throughout when I'm talking, say I don't like name dropping, right? I
Hmm.
have people who
Hmm.
make it, but I think it's important to acknowledge the people who got me here. You know,
Hmm. Absolutely.
as I tell my story,
Hmm.
that I am not just me. You
Hmm.
know, and that's what
Hmm.
the confidence that I also try and bring into the room
Ooh!
when I deal with people is that you aren't just dealing with me.
Justin,
You,
stop it. Justin, stop it.
you are dealing with a whole
Whole
community, a whole
community,
legacy
a whole legacy,
of love,
a
of
tribe of
celebration,
love. Oh.
of courage, of of all these things in me. Who the people who have planted, and there's so many, that I try and say, just some of their names. I haven't said, because I haven't said my father yet. I have to go back to my father.
Absolutely.
Morris Lee Porter Emeka,
Mm.
who
Mm.
who showed me a certain, exemplified a certain courage and lack of fear towards just being himself, being as a black man from the South, to do. I mean, he just exemplified a certain
Mm.
freedom
Mm.
in how he lives every day,
Mm.
that I have to acknowledge and celebrate.
Oh, you keep bringing tears to my eyes. Mm.
Mm.
Wow. And last but not least, what do you do to celebrate you?
Mm. I do to celebrate me? That's a good question. I guess I try and give myself space to do to express myself, to do whatever I
Absolutely.
want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether and so funny. I got so many creative impulses. I like to
Mm.
write. I like to
Mm-hmm.
play guitar. I like to do
Mm-hmm.
capoeira. I like
Mm-hmm.
to sing. I like
Mm-hmm.
and when I have free time, my wife, she laughs and teases me because I'll like go through all these things. You know, she'd be like, "God damn, you play a guitar." 10 minutes later, I have a bit of you know, the next minute I'm in the lobby, I'm in the living room, you know, on my hands.
Oh God.
So I try and just give myself space to just do the things that make me happy, you know, without the pressure of even trying to be the best of this. Just enjoy finding activities that you just enjoy doing and make you feel more alive. So that's what I try and leave space. Quote, you know, Avery Brooks told me about of Dr. Howard Thurman's quote of, you got to always leave space in your life for the coming of angels.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing it. With this idea that you must always leave space in their life for the coming of angels, the singing of angels, or you know, but that you got to leave that space, because oftentimes you'll miss your blessing if you don't create that space for it to reveal itself to you. That's what I try and do. Sometimes I'm better than others.
Justin, your story is so beautiful, and it explains so much about why your work is so stunning. And I'm grateful for you. I celebrate you. I love you, brother. I thank you. This world, our community, is a better place because you exist in it. And all those other people that you named. I love what you said about, I am not just me. So in celebrating you, I now know that I'm celebrating them too.
Right. I love you, LA.
I love it, brother. I mean, oh my God. Okay. I love it. I'm so glad we had this moment. I've learned so much just about my friend.
I want to tell you too, because you've been asking about this production so much, you know.
Yeah.
So and I was wondering if you knew something, but you know, this production of Midsummer Night's Dream, I did 10 years ago, you know. It'll be 10 years.
Right, exactly. Probably next year, I think.
Next year.
Yeah.
And I'm planning, I can't say exactly where, but I'm going to finally do Midsummer Night's Dream again in a regional theater. And it's going to be I'm going to revisit it 10 years later.
10 years later.
And so just keep your eye out for that.
Oh, you already know. You already know. I'm up in the place.
It's going to be
exciting. Oh, amazing, Justin. That is so exciting to hear, because I know what your production did for me 10 years ago. And to think that there's another little LA out there somewhere who's about to get their entire life. It's just so incredible, Justin. And I want to just also say that I think I speak for our entire community. Certainly everybody that I've come in contact with who know about or who saw your show. When I say we all loved it. And I think I'm speaking for many, many people when I say, thank you for that production, and thank you for the future production, right? And for the people whose lives you're about to touch, and all your productions, right? Thank you for your Ma Rainey's. Thank you for your King Lear. Thank you for believing in yourself, bro. That's it, Justin. Thank you for believing in yourself and having the audacity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And there's room for us all. There's room for us all.
There is room for us all. Yeah. I can talk to you forever, as you know. Yeah. I am so grateful for this. I'm blessed. I feel changed even by this conversation. So thank you.
Next up, 2 Trains Running, Pittsburgh Public Theater.
Yes.
It's going to be running in June. So that's
June of 2022, this year.
June 2022.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm very excited about that.
Well, you know I'm there, and I hope everybody else shows up. And you're amazing, Justin.
Please. Thank you, LA. Thank you for having me here. It's just been wonderful learning about myself.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.